Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Andrea. I have been a Etsy seller for 8 years, which is crazy to say. It is my full-time job, and this YouTube channel is where I share all the things I have learned and am currently learning about being an Etsy seller and being a small business owner and all of those sorts of things. So today specifically, we are going to be talking about something that's not Etsy specific, but very important for small business owners, and it is how to avoid overwhelm in small business. So if you have a small business that you have ran for any amount of time, you know that it can be a really overwhelming thing to do. For the most part, it is very fun. It's exciting. I wouldn't trade it for the world, literally. Like, I love being self-employed, and that is my dream job. Being self-employed in literally any capacity is my dream job. But it can be very overwhelming at times. So this video is going to be how I kind of deal with that feeling of being overwhelmed in my business, how I deal with that feeling personally. It might apply to you, it might not. You might be like, oh my gosh, great, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Or our brains might work completely differently and you might not feel that way, but this is going to be a video of how I deal with that feeling of overwhelm, personally, how I deal with that. So usually whenever I am feeling overwhelmed in my business, it is because I have a list of things to do, and I either don't have time to do them all, or I don't even know where to start. So I especially ran into this problem before I kind of implemented the strategy I'm going to talk about today, just because I would get so many ideas. I definitely have a creative brain, and I would have so many ideas for ways that I could take my business, and then I wouldn't know what to do next or how to start, or I would have so much on my to-do list that it just felt so overwhelming. And so that is usually why I'm overwhelmed in my business. It's either that I have a lot to do that is absolutely necessary and a lack of time, or just a lot of ideas swirling around in my head and I don't know which one I should do next. So again, if you've ran a small business for any amount of time at all, you can probably really relate to that feeling of being like, okay, so like there's a lot happening, and also there's a lot more that could be happening if I wanted it to. So there's a lot. That's definitely a feeling that a lot of you probably will relate to. So this is how I handle that feeling, how I now organize my thoughts and ideas and tasks in order to be able to not feel so overwhelmed. So I personally use Trello for my business. I like Trello. This is not an ad for Trello in any way. I just like the way that it works. My brain makes sense with Trello. It's really good for bouncing ideas off of employees as well. And so in Trello, I have multiple boards, but the two that I'm talking about as far as avoiding overwhelm is a board called Ideas. I think it's called Ideas, and then the other board is called Tasks. So like I mentioned earlier, I definitely have a creative brain, and like I'm an idea person. Like my husband says that he's like, you have more ideas in an hour than I've had in my entire life. So I definitely have a lot of ideas. Lack of ideas is not the problem for me. It's knowing which one to focus on next and which one, and not getting overwhelmed by all of them. So in Trello, like I said, I have two boards. One is for ideas and one is for actual tasks. So the ideas board is a place for me to keep a running list of all of the ideas that I have for my business. Every single time I'm like, oh, I should do that, or I should do this, or I should market there, or this would be a good like revenue generating thing, or blah, like whatever. It's a place. That ideas board is a place for me to keep a running list of all of those things. I make sure to make it not a to-do list. So it's really important to me that I get overwhelmed if I feel like I have a lot to do and then the ideas aren't getting written down, and so they might get lost, and then it feels more ethereal. And so having a board where the ideas actually get written down but it's not on a to-do list really helps me a lot, because I'm like, okay, I have this idea. I create a card for that idea so I can put comments under it or add to the description anytime I get an idea for that idea, anytime I want to elaborate upon that particular thing that I am making a card for. And it's not a to-do list. So it's massively important that that ideas board does not get combined with my task board. My task board is my actual to-do list, my projects that are in the pipeline that are happening that I am currently working on. I am definitely the type of person that likes to work on one project at a time. And so what I do to keep overwhelm in check is I have an ideas board where all of my thoughts, basically I can just brain dump on that Trello board and I don't feel like they're getting lost, but I also don't feel like I need to attack them right now because I also have a task board that are actual products that are in motion at the current moment in my business. And then once I complete that project or I finish that task, I then I go to my ideas board, I decide which one idea that I have for my business will be best to do next. And I obviously decide that based on the goals that I have for my business. So revenue goals or time freedom goals, whatever goal I have set for my business, I pick the idea off the ideas board that best goes with that goal that I have, and then it gets moved to the task board. And once it's on the task board, that means I'm actually working on that project. That is something that I'm actually taking on for my business. The task board is the place where I spend my day in, day out, like organizing my days, because that's a project that I'm currently working on. The ideas board gets added to sporadically whenever I come up with something that I really want to make sure gets recorded and remembered, but I don't have time to work on right now. So again, I've mentioned already, but this is so specific. Like what works for me definitely might not work for you. It's one of those things where it just is so dependent on the person. But if your brain works like mine and you are an ideas person and you get overwhelmed by all the amounts of ideas that you have, but you also don't want to lose them, having and implementing a strategy where you have two totally separate places to put ideas and things that might be good, might not be good, and actual projects that you're working on for your business might work really, really well for you. I always love hearing about how other people structure these kinds of things in their business, just because I feel like this is something that I did struggle with. And so I like learning how other people do it and how other people organize their thoughts, and just basically, if someone else's brain works the way mine does, I find it very, very beneficial to hear how they organize that kind of stuff so I can try and maybe take away some pieces of that and implement them into my business. So that is what I hope this video was for you. I hope it was helpful. I hope that if you work like me and your brain kind of makes sense with that idea, you're like, yes, cool, and you find a good way to implement that. And if your brain does not work like mine and you absolutely hate that idea, I hope that you say, no, I don't want to do that at all. I'm cool with doing it another way. That's a way I'm not going to do it, and hopefully that's helpful for you. So all in all, I really hope that's helpful for you. Avoiding overwhelm is a very hard thing to do in small business, but it's definitely something that you have to overcome if you want to keep working towards your small business. If you are interested in learning more about how to grow on Etsy, I would absolutely love it if you hung out around here and subscribed. And also make sure to check out my free masterclass where I walk through a 3-step framework on how to grow on Etsy. It is such a valuable resource and is linked in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you choose to hang out with me here and talk about Etsy.